I'll start sharing my screen and so can you see that? Oh, I should have do it now. Can everybody apart from John mute their things? I've started the recording before muting them. So. Okay, we're going to start with the first colour image then. Last train home.
Right. Anyway, well, good evening to everybody. Thank you very much for the invite. I've spent some hours looking at the pictures, your images, and been quite interesting in your interpretation of the word travel. Obviously, it means different things to different people. However, it's been interesting. So, yes, last train home. In a way, I looked at all of them to see how they met the competition subject, also the quality of the image, point of interest, that sort of thing. And so obviously gave scores accordingly. Now, for this one, the colours are great. The train is in a strong position, and you know, I think that whoever's done this has obviously given some thought about it. It's always difficult to, if you like, to move things and that sort of thing. So I'm pleased that they've left them, because it is a realistic situation, and the lights and things all match. And if you like, they've gone to some length to balance the image out. I thought that was very, very good. It's sharp where it needs to be. There's no sort of, as far as I can see, there's no burnt out areas. And so it's had good control. It meets the criteria. But the last train home, what happens if you miss it? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I thought that was quite a good image to start off the competition. What do you want to do with scores, Alan?
Right, so that's a holdback.
Thank you.
So where you've actually scored them, I will actually show the score and the author. Okay. Next one. Flag Jugglers Grieve, Italy. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it, but anyway.
Yes. For quality, fine. We're obviously in Italy. I did find it a little bit difficult to concentrate on the point of interest, although it could be said that those are the flags, which therefore makes it a little bit heavy on one side with the flag waving. And there really wasn't one person that I thought was, if you like, the main point of interest, although I guess it could be argued that the one in blue in front is fairly sort of dominant with the flag and everything. But of course, we've got the back to him. It's a good case of men in tights, which is fine. And of course, we get a sense of, if you like, the place. I wasn't quite sure about the band on the right, whether they were needed and whether or not we should just concentrate on the flag wavers, because it is quite busy obviously with tourists, with viewers and the people performing. And so with that, I just thought that there was probably some weakness on the composition, but quality-wise, it seemed fine. You know, just lacked probably a little bit of a really serious point of interest. Although it could be argued and said, well, it's all the flags and all the people. But it did make the eye wonder a little bit about with the trumpet players on the right-hand side, so I wasn't sure about that.
Okay, so that's scored 16, and that was David Neal. Third one. Got your JAB certificates?
Yes, I think this is Lisbon, if I remember right. I have been there and I have seen this. Of course, it's replicating the journey, I think, to America. I think that, if you like, it's caught the structure well. I think that it's well composed for that. The different people, of course, you do end up looking at them and searching through it. And so I thought that was quite good. I wasn't so sure about the the shadows, whether they could have been a little bit deeper just to give it a little bit more 3D. But I thought that overall it was a reasonable image. It's, if you like, it is a good record of the actual structure itself. And in a way, I guess it does represent travel in the Middle Ages and a record of it. Whether the natives of America feel as though the same, that we should have not gone that far, is another thing. But yeah, I thought it was a good record shot of the statue.
Okay, that scored 16, and the author was Steve Dillon. Tuscan Dreams.
Yes. Now, I spent some time looking at all of them. You know, it does run into hours, because each time you look at something, you want to make sure that you if you like, you've noted the content. This one is full of symbolism. We've got the young lady in the bottom left-hand corner. Obviously, you can see her with the flowers, the cat a bit further back, and then we've got the birds at the top, and it looks like a planet as well. So a bit like Belt Brace's piece of string. I wasn't sure whether it all hung together. There may be a hidden meaning in this. I must be honest, I'm not a fan of girls who have rings coming out their nose, because, you know, I come from a generation where people should wipe their noses, and I always look at them and think, I'm not so sure. But anyway, that's her decision. But we put her in almost a medieval part of Rome. The birds, you see, are a strong influence right at the top. We've got her and we've got the cat. So I felt that, as for the main point of interest was the girl with the flower, but then when you look at the composition, she's down in the bottom left-hand side, which, yeah, it gives more power to the cat and to the birds. But I felt that, you know, the composition was such that I wasn't so sure about the birds, all the birds being necessary. I think if we want her to be the main point of interest, then maybe a little bit less of the birds and sky, and move her up and probably into the picture a little bit more. So I thought that was probably, if you like, the weakness was created probably a bit too enthusiastic to include all the symbolism, all the birds, you know, and the cat. I guess, if you like, the cat was there to represent as well what she does, but the birds I thought maybe was a little bit too much. But anyway, it's still a competent image, quality done, that sort of thing.
Okay, that was 16 marks, and that was me. Chinese Day Out.
Yes, I did find this a joyful image. It meets the criteria of travel very, very well. Obviously, in a foreign country, we're traveling on the bike. It's the family. Excuse me. We've got the cycle, we've got the scooter, we've got cars the other side. And I liked about it is that it's been caught. It's street photography. It's not posed. The author has seen this. There's plenty of room in front of the cycle for them to go into. And the little boy at the back, not that interested in what's going on. But there is interest in all the three people on the bike. And the background's out of focus, whether by taking or by any other means, it really doesn't matter. It just concentrates the minds on the cyclists. And, you know, they've all got blue trousers, yellow and blue look. The little boy is like his dad, and then mum's in between. So, yeah, I thought this was a good image.
Okay, that's a holdback. Number 6. Travel ban.
Yeah. Again, I think I might have seen this globe somewhere else in the competition, or it might be a different one, but I guess in a way, yes, it symbolizes the travel ban, but obviously the masks are to do with the, if you like, the virus situation, I guess, that we've got at the moment, and the ban on the travel. Whilst it was full of symbolism, you know, with the cross and the globe and that sort of thing, I felt that it was probably a little bit weak on subject matter. You know, some of them don't have, some have more than others, and I felt that this one was just a little bit short on that. So whilst all of a sudden you get the interest, but then it wanes a little bit. It's just a bit short of long-term interest while looking at the image.
Okay, that scored 15, and that was Dave Livesey. Next one, Moorish.
Yeah, a good record of the inside of a building, the Moorish carvings and symbolisms all around it, and tiles and such like, well balanced. You can see that it's done in such a way as we get one arch after another after another. And then, of course, we've got the plants in the center and the table with 3 chairs. And so everything is balanced and competently taken. I just felt that by the time we'd gone through the arches, we got to the table, and then we were just missing the main event. It was a good record of the structure, but I felt that it just needed something other than the table and the 3 chairs. In fact, it might have been a little bit better if we hadn't had the table and 3 chairs and we were able to go out the back of it and then see into the garden area, whatever is at the back. I mean, it might be a street for all I know, but I just felt that the chairs and the table blocked the view through, and it just stopped us. But we could see all the way around. But when we got to the middle, I felt it was just lacking a little bit.
Okay, that scored 15, and that was Ivan Sedgwick. Number 8, it's the cart, not the coffee.
Yeah, the thing is, of course, is that once you've got the images, you can spend quite a lot of time, whereas on the night, it's put up, you make some comments, whatever, and it's taken down. The trouble is, when you've got them for some period of time, you can look at them and over and over and over again, and you really have to stop yourself from, if you like, from looking and looking and looking, because it can get not only time consuming, but it can get very interesting. For instance, you know, like the green bag on the top, you just need somebody to just say, look, take the green bag off and I'll take a photo, then put it back on, if you can. I felt it was just a little bit oversaturated with regard to the colours. I think if we'd reduced them a little bit, it would have probably been more interesting to the viewer. Excuse me, because the sacks a little bit on the yellow side, but if you like desaturate it just a little bit, they become more real, more as if you like, we're used to seeing them. So so yeah, there's a lot going on, and the colours, as I say, I think are just a little bit too rich. But there is a lot of information for the people, if you like, for the viewer to see. But the plastic bag is just a little bit lets it down. I know there's some bits you can't help, the ladders and some of the other bits, but it just weakens the image just a little bit.
Okay, that scored 15, and that was Ivan Sedgwick. Next one, Last Train from Scunthorpe.
Yes, yeah, an interesting image. I guess all of them are interesting in some way, but this one was quite, and I thought it was, the challenging aspect to it was obviously the use of what, F22, I would guess, or thereabouts, with the lights being with the rays from them. I think you have to be at least about F22 to get those. And I don't know if you can see that. I don't know whether you've got it full screen or whether it's a smaller one on your screen. But if you put your finger over the light on the right, you'll find that you have more interest in the station on the left, because as much as you want to look at the station and the train and such like, that light is so powerful, it sort of concentrates your mind on it all the time. One or two on the other side, you know, we could probably live with, but if you, believe it or not, if you cropped off that bright light on the right hand side, I find that the whole picture hangs together a bit better and is strengthened, not weakened by it. I feel as though that's a real big distraction. In fact, if you cut the picture in half, you could probably make that a picture of its own, because that starlight is so strong. But I felt it just overpowered the subject, which was the station with the train and the natural light from there. But again, the rest of the image is fine. It's just that one was a little bit overpowering, that light.
Okay, that scored 16, and the author was Joyce Wenyon. Next one, where are we? Traveling makes you thirsty.
Yeah. I think, if you like, we're a little bit on the bright side. We've got a full sun, and it brings us the interest into Bertie's Bark Up Bar. But of course, we've got somebody's head on just near its shoulder on the left-hand side, and somebody going into the bar on, well, the cafe or whatever it is, on the right-hand side, which isn't so bad. I think the head that's been put on a stake just behind the bear is just a little bit intriguing, but it's there. I might have been tempted to clone it out if you're of a mind, but some people don't like cloning and just want to show it as it is. But in that particular case, I think the head could have gone, to be honest. And I think it would have probably been a little bit stronger if we'd had a dog of some sort having a drink, you know, the emphasis being on the dog and such like, and then we would have got probably a little bit more foreground interest and that sort of thing. Of course, it's always about computers. I've got to be careful what I say about being it bright or dark or whatever, because you angle the screen and it changes the depth of color and such like. But I felt it was just needed a dog or something just to reinforce that it was obviously for dogs and that sort of thing. But yeah, okay.
Right, that scored 15, and that was Anthony Rhodes. On loan from the supermarket.
Yes. if looks could kill, the author is probably in a cemetery somewhere. Don't look too pleased with the fact is that she's been caught with the shopping trolley with the stuff in it. So yeah, there's a real connection between her and the photographer. Yeah, I don't think he or she was on the best side. But yeah, so that was one thing. And I thought, yeah, I don't mind if she's angry with the photographer. If you do street photography, I guess you get that a bit sometimes because people feel as though you've caught them doing something they shouldn't be doing. However, the real weakness in this picture is not the lady with a trolley, which is done perfectly well. Because then I thought, I can swear blind I can see two girls that are identical. But then I thought, well, maybe they're twins, you know, in the background. I thought, well, that's it, they're two twins. And then I thought, well, hang on, they look very, very similar. And I think the woman looks similar as well. So we've got two twins with two mothers that are twins. And I was beginning to think that that was highly unlikely. And then when you look at the car behind, the front of the car and the back of the car are not joined together. And so so there's a little bit going on there. Again, if you look and if you do it with fast stone or whatever and you blow it up, I think it's the way in which it's been cloned or added or whatever, or taken away, however it's been done. But it made me smile because, you know, we all make mistakes sometimes. But maybe if the girls hadn't been in white dresses or whatever, it may not have attracted my attention. But it did, and I thought, no, not two girls, not two mothers, both twins. That doesn't happen. But anyway, so that did reflect in the score. But I mean, quality-wise, fine, other than the cloning in the background. But the lady there, you know, if you ever had a competition said, you know, on the wrong side or angry, I think that you'd do well in it.
Okay, that scored 15, and that was George Fiddler. Okay, tootling along.
Yes, yeah. Colours, yeah, they're fine. I've been to Anderby Creek this afternoon, and the sea is not that colour there, I can assure you. So I'm envious of the blue. But yeah, the red and the blue go together very well, don't they? And it's got room to go into, you know, as a vessel. So it obeys all the rules of thirds and that sort of thing. So composition-wise, it's very strong. And of course, the lid's up for anybody that I don't know whether they're down there or looking underneath the waves, because I presume it's one of those where you can see the fish and everything underneath the water, which are very good. Although I do have a fear of drowning, so I'll probably keep near the hatch myself. But yeah, it's competent picture, sharp, good colours, good composition. Yeah, good effort.
Okay, that scored 17, and that was Keith Cawthorne. Next one, Mystery's Trip to Nowhere.
Yeah. I thought probably, you know, sort of, I didn't know whether it was the contrast or what. It just seemed just a little bit on the flat side, just a touch. But we've straightened the lamppost. So that's good. The bus is obviously leaning just a little bit. I wasn't so sure about the bricks in the foreground. I guess it's like most things, provided you get the bus stop in, it's fine. So yeah, sorry, I'm not in service. Yeah, that was the thing, and the unsmiley face above it, I thought was well seen. So overall, yeah, it's been well seen. I think that in the travel or not travel, I guess it meets that to a certain extent. But I did find the car in the background a little bit distracting, but it's on a road, so fair enough. So yeah, it's a competent image.
That scored 15, and that was me. Next one, El Gem, Tunisia.
Yes, I have been here many years ago, lots of years ago now. When I first saw it, I thought, well, they're a long way from the airport, but I thought, was it, you know, that sort of thing. And then I thought, is that the cleaning lady? And then I'm thinking, how does she deal with the dust? So, but composition-wise, it's very good. The if you like, the bright side and if you like, the other side are quite nicely balanced. It's an interesting sky. The person in there, of course, is in a good position. We can go through at the bottom, so, and then each side of the arena goes round. So a good composition, nice colours, you know. Yeah, I thought that it fits the subject of travel. It's a competent, you know, well put together image. So yeah, fine.
Okay, that's a holdback. Next one, Luggage Transfer Peru.
Yes. Yeah, I guess we've all had damaged suitcases, and when you see these sort of things, you know why they get damaged. So yeah, the treatment of a suitcase, it has to really stand up to some hammer. But I felt with this one, we're a little bit of two halves again. We've got the suitcases and the bike and the wheels or whatever on the right hand side, but then we've got all the interest with the people who are loading up on the left hand side. I mean, I didn't mind any of the written work on the walls. I thought that added context and that sort of thing. But I felt that we were just a little bit cramped on the left hand side. If we had a little bit more room on there, I felt it would have been a little bit better balanced. The bit that we've got on the right, we could have had on the left. You see, we've cut through the wheel, and so that just sort of trims it off there just a little bit. So I felt it was a bit, if you like, a little bit one-sided. And again, maybe contrast just a bit to touch it up. Some of the shadows just make them a little bit deeper, we could have got away with. But I understand he's in black, so we have to be careful what we do with him and his black clothing.
Okay, that's scored 13, Mary Fish. Next one, the Segway Travel Club.
Yes, again, the criteria on travel, obviously we're in a foreign place. The tourists are going around on the Segway. So if you like, they meet that criteria as well as they're traveling. The composition is very good with the leader on, if you like, on the left, and then we work our way through the picture to the other leader, I think, which is on the far end at the back of it. Because you can tell which are leaders, because generally speaking, they don't have helmets on. They've got thicker skulls than the rest. They don't need the head protection, which is a shame, really, because you'd have thought they would have set an example. But anyway, they haven't. But I thought it was a very competent image. It's got, as I sort of say, an interest all the way through from left to right. And even the person with the pushchair sort of fills in an empty space, but also starts the chain of events which goes from one side to the other. A nice letterbox type image. that's been well done. I thought, yeah, good image.
That's a holdback. 17, Gondolas, Venice.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked at this a number of times. And it looks like we've got marble or something put over the Venice and the gondolas. And I was trying to work out what was so bad about the image for a start, that we wanted to apply a filter to it, if you like, an overlay, and create an image where it neither are sort of a very strong. Excuse me. I've been to Venice a few times, and usually the colours are, are sort of fairly strong, and we've got used to a certain thing. Maybe I thought, well, maybe the sky was a bit bland, and we thought that we could, enhance it. So I wasn't quite sure that the filter applied and had enhanced the original image. I'm assuming it was the gondolas and things which were the original, and we've applied a filter over the top of that. I've always got this feeling at the back of my mind, I might have preferred the original, for whatever reason that you decided to try and enhance it. I wasn't quite sure on the success of that, to be honest. It just made it a little bit confusing as to, if you like, what was, as a viewer, as all of you are now looking at it, which is the point of interest that we want to be looking at within the composition, which point has the most. And probably the gondola on the left would have been the strongest point of interest. And then we would have had foreground, middle ground, and background. So I'm not sure that the filter's a success, to be honest.
Okay, that scored 15. And that was Number 18, Zeus.
Yes,
Tunisia.
I must be honest. This one was backwards and forwards on the computer, because it was actually, it's, as far as the image is concerned, that's fine. I'm not sure that I would have included the sea or the harbour or whatever. Little bits of boats and things like that. A little bit untidy on the top, I thought. But it looks as though there's a bit of a blue cast to it. Yet the stonework would lend you to believe that there isn't. But the buildings all look blue. It may be that they're reflecting the sky, and it was a beautiful blue sky, and that's been reflected in what would appear to be white. So trying to reduce the blue a little bit might have been all right. But the palm trees, again, you see, the greens there aren't that full of colour, and there's no real shadows either. So I'm assuming that it might have been a bit, high in the sky on the light side. So yeah, your eyes are drawn to the people and the turret. I did find myself, if you like, cropping off the top a little bit, and sort of on the left-hand side also. But it was just a little bit, I was just a little bit troubled by the blueness of it. It may be just me, but I felt that some of those may have been a little bit white rather than blue. Maybe they are all blue, but I just felt it just was a little bit on the blue side.
Okay, that scored 15, and that was Ken Sykes. Running repairs.
Yes. This was, I have to say that this one I did find intriguing. And I did look at how many people were watching him do these. And to be quite honest, he is the main point of this whole picture. And to be quite honest, it don't matter how you cut this up, it still remains the same thing where he is the focal point of it all. So if you like, does it meet the criteria of travel? Yes. Does it have a focal point, point of interest? Yes. Is it good quality? Yes. But I did think that maybe I might have cropped it a little bit more with the blue. sorry, with the get to the red bus out of the way because it's got the writing on the side. I might have been tempted just to drop it so that that disappeared. But it was certainly interested. I must be honest, on my own computer, I did crop it down by almost 2/3. Well, if you like, the people, the big group, I cropped out and then I put them back, you know, just have a look at the different compositions. But yeah, I thought it very interesting.
Okay, that's a holdback. Next one, next stop, Cadiz.
Yes, I must be honest. I prefer to be on the shore than the boat. I understand that people like cruises, but for me personally, I prefer to be on terra firma, and the firmer it is, the less terror that I have. And of course, with boats, you know, I see them sickness and diarrhea. No, I don't want that, so I don't want to go on there. Occasionally they run aground. I don't want to be on that there. And sometimes I guess you've got a lot of people that you might not want to be with. But I understand that you eat and sleep in between visits, which seems a good idea in that respect. So you go for something to eat, you go to sleep, you wake up, you're in Cadiz. So I can understand that. The blueness of the late evening shot, I think, is fine. The two people in the foreground, I think that adds to it. It gives us a sense of scale. You know, people saying goodbye. You know, so overall, with the lighting and everything, I think it shows, if you like, cruise travel off very, very well. It'll not be going in the lagoon in Venice anymore, but that's a good thing. But yeah, I thought a nice evening shot.
Okay, that's a holdback. Sky leads the peloton.
Yeah, I'm sorry for laughing, you know, because when you're looking at, as I say, I think right, it's a travel competition, and sometimes the link to travel is a bit tenuous. You know, you're thinking, hello, we're in lockdown, we've got to find some images for travel. And so then I say to myself, well, let's say that we look in the Radio Times or in the paper or on the whatever, and it says there's a travel program on tonight. You think, oh, I'll switch that on. And you get cycle racing. You might look, are we on Sky Sport? No, we're on a travel program. So I must be honest, it did make me smile. But so I think as a sporting photograph, I think this is very good. We've got all the action. We've got a gap at the front for them to go into. You could argue, yeah, they're traveling from A to B, so it meets travel. But I felt that in the spirit of the competition, it maybe wasn't as strong as some of the others. But it's a competent sport shot, there's no doubt about it. If you're into cycling or into sport, then this is a good shot. And if you know who these people are, even better. I must be honest, they mean nothing to me. You know, my days of cycling are over. But anyway, it's a good shot.
Okay, that's scored 17, and that was Mary Fish. 22, Death Valley.
Yes. Believe it or not, I was supposed to be heading towards Death Valley at some point, if it hadn't been for the pandemic. And also I was going, well, I may still do, but I was going with Mike Martindale from Grimsby. And as you know, Mike's had a stroke. You know, how much bad luck one man can have, I've no idea, but he's had more than his fair share. So this was one of the places I was going. So I was quite interested in that respect. I think, yeah, okay. We're in the desert, we're in Death Valley. But obviously, with the choice of the wide angle lens, there is, I think when you tilt it down into it, that your curvature then goes up in the middle. So there is a slight distortion with the lens, I think, of however we've used it. On my screen, it goes up a little bit in the middle. I guess the author might argue that no, it's just a shadow, you know, it's dead level, but it looked a little bit. But to be quite honest, I must be honest, I looked at this a number of ways, and in the end, I really came out in favor of a vertical format portrait. You get the sense of all the bits of rocks and salt and whatever. You get the mountain range in the background, and I did sort of tweak it a little bit just to see if the mountains would go a little darker. And I think possibly, yeah, that would help it, you know, with the sky and everything a little darker. It's a little bit on the, you know, on the lean side for me. But overall, I felt, yeah, it is what it is. It's Death Valley. But I guess after a little while, you might be wondering, okay, what do I look at now? So on maintaining interest, I thought it was probably a little bit weaker than some.
Okay, that scored 15, and that was David Neal. Next one, Jersey Lighthouse.
Yeah. Again, looking at this as, if you like, in a composition situation, the rock in the bottom left and the bottom right, we've included those, I guess, in maybe that's the foreground, and then the bunch of rocks is the middle ground, and then the lighthouse is the background. That might have been the intention. But of course, to do that, it means that the lighthouse goes further and further up in the frame. And to be honest, I might have been tempted to crop it so that the rock at the left disappears and possibly clone out the other rock on the right. And then the lighthouse moves down in the frame and becomes, if you like, in a stronger position. Because I guess in a way it is really the lighthouse that's the subject. The point of interest is the lighthouse. Yet these two rocks in the bottom have got extra strength just because of their location. So if you look at taking those off and then you look at the composition again, your lighthouse gets a much stronger place. And of course, how dark it is or how light it is, if you're on a laptop like me, then where you point it or whatever does make a difference. But I did all my judging on a normal screen upstairs. I didn't do it on a laptop because I do find the screens a little bit iffy where they are, with the angle of them to what colours and things are. So I use the desktop. But yeah, that was really the thing is, I think, is to lose a little bit at the bottom and bring the lighthouse a bit further down.
That scored 16, and that was Steve Parrish. And the last one in this section, Hot Springs.
Yes. It's a competent landscape, no doubt about it. It's very wide, and we see it from left to right, and the colours are good, yeah, it is very wide, and if you like, and it's caused a fairly big letterbox. I felt that as a landscape photograph, yeah, it's a competent shot. As for travel, I wasn't quite sure. I guess in a way, when you said travel, I'm not sure whether you had in your own minds exactly what you meant by it, or whether you felt it was a title that most people could put something in. But I must be honest, it makes it a little bit difficult for the judge to know what you really want as a travel shot. So with this one, I'm thinking, yeah, in a landscape competition, very, very good. It's, there's everything there you want, sharp but good colours, yeah, information, that sort of thing. So again, I was left a bit bewildered as to how many points, if you like, to allocate it as a travel. Although you could say, well, to get that, you have to travel to it. But having said that, you could go to Anderby Creek like I did to travel there, but you might not suggest it's a travel shot. So I must be honest, it just left me a little bit bewildered where to place it within the competition. But anyway, I had to make a decision in the end, and that's the marks.
Okay, so that scored 17, and that was Steve Parrish. Okay, we've got 6 holdbacks.
Okay.
So we'll look at those again in a slightly different order, but anyway. I know you've said quite a bit about this, but do you want to say any more, John? Or...
Well, no, just that the marks, when you start going through them and then you look at the marks and then you look at, because I put them in fast down because then you can put them next to each other and then you can move them in an order that you think that the strongest to the weakest and that sort of thing. So So that's how I did it. But like I said, the colours are good. The composition's not bad at all. Yeah, I think that you've straightened it up. The verticals are fine. There's no driver, but having said that, that's okay. Yeah, not more to say really.
Okay, that scored 18, and that was Anthony Rhodes. Running repairs.
Yes, as I said, I thought this was a very strong picture, really. That could have been stronger. It might be in the club, you could have some fun doing the different crops, because as I say, I did put on my own computer in between the two girls and the yellow topped lady, you know, and then you can go behind the two girls, and then the boy with his foot becomes in a very strong position. Again, if you lose the red bus, you end up again without any distractions at the top, because all the cars and things are the colours that I like. Grey. I've got a blue car now, and it looks like I'm going to have to wash it every day. Whereas grey, I never had to wash it at all. So I thought that everything is grey except him with his foot, her with the yellow top, and then the people. But as I say, the red bus is a bit of a distraction at the top. And to be quite honest, I think I would have just cropped that off. And then you can decide how many people you want in the picture. You know, you can probably crop behind the guy in black, and it will just enhance, I think, for the guy with the foot. But yeah, I thought that was a reasonably good photograph.
Okay, that scored 18. That was George Fiddler. Next stop, Cadiz.
Yeah, like I said, you know, the blue light, everything on the boat lit up, gives us a sense of scale and size and that sort of thing. So yeah, as I said, a good image, and hence it's if you like, towards the top.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I got that wrong. I actually scored 18. Sorry, not 19. That's an 18 score. It was Keith Cawthorne. Held Gem, Tunisia.
Yeah. I must be honest, I love bits that are Roman. You know, much underrated occupancy. But yes, I'm not very sure that they were kind to the local people, but there you go. So yeah, a good, straightforward image with that person there. I'm not sure whether she's cleaning or what she's doing, but she's in a very strong position, and she gives a sense of scale to the whole building. You know, without that, we might be thinking, well, how big is it? How deep is it? And that sort of thing. But with that person there, we get the sense of scale with it. So either by luck or by choice or whatever, when you decided to take it, it was good that that person was there.
Okay, that scored 19. That was Ken Sykes. Segway Travel Club.
Yeah. Waiting for them to come out of the shadows in the sunshine. I thought it was good. And as I say, you've cropped out all the extraneous bits and pieces that might distract. A bit pernickety from me, maybe, but I might have got rid of the UW. Might have done just something with that to sort of quieten that down, because it can be a little bit, you know, attractive once you've seen it. But other than that, no, I thought it was fine. Yeah, good straightforward line of people on a Segway, well captured. And of course, I guess however long it takes to get from one side to the other, you've got to, you know, compose. So anyway, well done.
Okay, that scores 19. That was Dave Livesey. And finally, Chinese Day Out.
Yeah, I've said that it meets all the criteria, really. It meets the travel, it meets quality image, good composition, good point of interest. You know, it's not been set up, it's been grabbed as they're going past. So, you know, the photographer there has done really well. And I guess fortunate enough that the scooter was just that bit in front. because had it been behind them, then it might have been a little bit more complicated as an image. But no, I think it's good representation of travel.
Okay, so that was the 20 score, and that was scored by Steve Dillon. So well done, Steve. That will go forward to the possibly the best image in the night once we've got the mono done. So well done, John. You've taken us up to an ideal time to have a short break.
Have a short break.
Go on to the mono. So that was a summary. There was 120, 2 19s, 3 18s scored in that section. Okay.
Well done, everybody. What time are we coming back, Alan?
25 past, 10 minutes.
10 minutes break.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just get a drink. That's it. Yeah, sorry. I was clicking on the wrong symbol, which is typical. So so that's a standard lens, is it then, David?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing at the back was, it was because of heat haze, because it was
Possibly.
bloody hot.
Yeah.
Dave, I didn't know you'd been to Death Valley. No.
It went last Thursday.
Just what is it they do on Star Trek? Beamed over.
When did Mike have his stroke, John?
Where are we in?
It's April now.
I think it must have been just after Christmas.
Oh, right.
I mean, you know, Mike's had bowel cancer and got over that. Then he has a bloody stroke. I'm just saying, I think, is God trying to tell you something? You know, I said, you are the luckiest, unlucky person I know. You know.
Has it affected him badly?
No, that's the point. I mean, mentally, you wouldn't notice much difference. You know. I can say that, he's my friend. But no, he's got use of his arms and legs. Yeah, I mean, to look at him, you probably couldn't tell that he'd had the stroke. But it's obviously now the old brain is repairing itself, and you know, he is getting better. It's taken a little bit of time, and you know, if it does a lot of exercise. Well, you know what I mean? Yes, some exercise. He said he gets tired and that sort of thing. And he was going to have a few hours sleep in the middle of the day as well, you know. But he's getting out and about a bit now. I think he's driving a little bit. But yeah, he was lucky. In fact, I don't know whether you know, but he was online. He was doing Facebook, and we had all these sort of weird messages coming up. And people were saying, "Is it meant to be for us? Is he meant to be posting this?" But of course, his brain was not working correctly, and he was posting rubbish, you know, about going to work. I might not be going to work tomorrow, and it was all rubbish. And people were saying, "Are you sure you're all right?" But anyway, got an ambulance to him in time anyway, and they've sorted him. So yeah, so he's been lucky.
Okay. Right, it's 25 past then, so we're ready to go to the next section.
Yeah, let's go.
Right. Okay. Okay, so we've got the mono images.
You want to mute everybody, Alan?
Oh, I'm going to have to stop sharing to mute just a minute. So, John, you'll have to unmute yourself when I've done this.
All right.
Okay. Mum takes a break.
Yeah. Again, a good, interesting image. So I'll just try and see if I can hide the scores, because I had to do the scores. But just to prove that about the notes, I don't know whether you can see them.
They're showing
each
my
image-
screen so they can't see.
So I don't know whether you can see that, but anyway, so yeah, each of these has been gone through a number of times. Subject matter, travel, yeah, full score for that. Point of interest, Mum, she's looking at the camera, and obviously the bike, but she's the main point of interest because of that. I just felt it was a little bit low on contrast. I did tweak it a little bit with contrast on my computer, and I felt that it improved it, and obviously then let it go again, because you could see the before and after. So I thought that just a little bit more contrast, because if you look, there isn't much shadow detail anywhere. So a little bit of extra contrast gives it a little bit more punch, makes the whites that little bit whiter and the blacks that little bit blacker. But if you want to talk in Camera Club language, then yeah, there's room for them to go into. Look, they're not too near the edge. We've got everybody in the picture. Excuse me, it's a family day out, so it's not posed. It's been managed to be captured. And I thought, yeah, a reasonably good image, no distractions. As I say, Mum's the point of interest, but just needs a little bit more contrast, to be honest.
Okay, let's go on there. So that was a holdback. Number 2, promenading.
Yes. Yeah, well, I thought this was pretty realistic, to be honest. You know, if you want to get run over, you know, pay little attention to scooters nowadays. But I thought that, if you like, the image was the couple on the scooters, you know, love and attention. The background probably a little bit busy behind them, and the train coming along added to, if you like, to the image. But again, I guess you have to decide whether you want the sky or you want really the bottom. I felt that possibly making them a little bit stronger by taking a little bit up, I think. If you lost a bit of sky, then they would have been in the middle, and I don't think that would have strengthened it at all. But I felt that probably just taking a bit off the bottom might have just moved them down in the frame, adding a bit of weight to it. But yeah, interesting. I thought that it was well seen, and it's a nice bit of street photography.
Okay, that scored 16. Dave Livesey. Leaving the Metro Abbesse at Paris.
Yeah. Right, now we come back to my criteria. Travel. Yeah, okay. It could be argued we're traveling up the steps. We're in Paris. That sort of thing, right? So, yeah, okay, that's fine. Probably not quite as travel as some, but composition, yeah, that's not too bad. Point of interest. Now, I'm thinking, well, the lady's bottom actually becomes the point of interest, because it's if you like, on the thirds, it's in a fairly strong position. So. It did make me smile a bit, but I think, yeah, we've got a good point of interest there. And as for because it's a little bit, if you like, because they're just going out of the picture, that I didn't mind. I felt, yeah, they're leaving, so yeah. But I might have you've either got to move them down or move them up, I guess. So I felt that I wasn't quite sure whether we needed everything on the left-hand side. We could have moved it just a touch in, and up a little bit off the bottom, just to strengthen it just a bit. But yeah, sort of a reasonably good, competent picture, if you like, good black and white, interest. But the point of interest has become the lady's bottom. So do I say well seen?
Okay, 17 marks. Joyce Wenyon.
Oh, well, Joyce can get away with it.
Okay. Typical English weather.
Yes. Again, we come back to how strong on the subject we get for travel. For landscape, seascapes, cloudscapes, yeah, that we're pretty strong on. Now, I think we're, to a certain extent, we've probably overdone just a little bit with the dark clouds. To be quite honest, to have lightened it would, I think, actually would have been a much better image. I'm not sure that we needed the emphasis on the thunderous clouds. You know, it's quite a good image when it's not so dark. There is a couple of black dots in the middle. Whether there might be dots on the sensor, there might be on the lens, I'm not sure, or what. But if you look right in the center, unless you know, it's a sniper site and we've just wiped out 2 people on the shoreline, I don't know. But if you look, there are 2 black dots virtually in the middle on the shoreline. And I've moved computers and they're still there, so it wasn't, you know, spots on the screen. But if you lighten it a little bit, the people come out. You know, there are people there, but they're a job to see them because it's a little bit dark. And no matter how I move it, it's still a little bit on the dark side. So, yeah, trying not to. But the two black dots in the middle doesn't help the composition. So, but yeah, there we go.
That's 14.
Yeah.
Anthony Rhodes. Lancaster, old and new.
Yeah. Again, we've got the, if you like, as a landscape, we've got the different layers, you know, but the treatment that we've given it has sort of flattened it a little bit. We've taken out any sort of foreground, middle ground, background, very, very background by, I guess, the treatment. I don't know quite what the treatment is. If it's a computer treatment, as you know, I'm not big on computers. Darkroom and such like is my favorite. But the treatment of this has flattened it. We don't sort of get any sense of, oh, this is in the foreground and the shadows to give it shape or whatever. So I don't know, HDR, I just, or some sort of filter. I apologize for my ignorance, but I think it's just flattened it a little bit. And we don't get the sense of, this is, if you like, this is the old Lancaster in the foreground. And then as you go further back, we don't get that real sense of going back. We just get a real sense of things getting smaller, which could be on top rather than behind. So that was, I thought, the problem with it for me. I wasn't sure about the spire either on the left-hand side. You know, it's on the edge and it sticks up. I wasn't quite sure whether I'd crop it in or crop it out, to be honest.
Okay, that was 15. That was me. The windmills of Porto Santo.
Yeah. Again, I have spent time, trust me, looking at these. It's now, if you see, we've got right. We're in a foreign place. Yeah. Probably more to do with landscape or whatever as to travel, but you can argue that we have to travel there to see it. There's a black line across the top, which I think we could have cropped out, and the foreground rocks right at the bottom, we could have darkened those a little bit to form a base, and also the buildings themselves. You can work on those just a touch. The roofs, I did actually darken those, and it does add a little bit to it to darken the roofs. And I wasn't really sure that we needed all the sticks. I know that it's part of it, and you say, well, yeah, but that's you know, but I'm not sure that by choosing to show all the bits of the windmill, whether or not it's just weakened the image, because to get the top, we've had to sort of lift the bottom. And so had we just dropped the top a little bit, it would have moved things down in the frame. But I mean, obviously interesting. in that respect, but I felt it just needed a little bit of tweaking here and there just to make it a stronger image.
"15, Ken Sykes. A quiet evening stroll in mono."
Yeah, again, as I say, I've looked at all of these time and time again. So the author wants us to show us the street scene at night, or in an evening, if you like, but it's obviously night, or because of the color of the sky and the wires. But the point of interest, obviously, is the lady on the right-hand side. It's down near the bottom, and she's, if you like, weakened a little bit by a position, by the amount of sky that we've got. If you, instead of doing a vertical, the portrait, do a landscape, and you then move the sky virtually out the picture, because it's black nothing, you know, there's not a lot in it. So if you reduce the area of the sky, and the emphasis then comes back on the lady, which I'm assuming is the strong point of your picture, that this lady's walking through your picture and in the street, I think you'll find that in a landscape position, it becomes a little bit stronger. We still get the street scene at night. We still get the lady, if you like, walking in the picture, sense of scale and such like, and we see right to the very end of the street. But I'm not sure that we need all the sky. I'm not sure that it adds anything to that.
Okay, so that's 16, and that's Ivan Sedgwick. "Portrait of Evita on building in Buenos Aires."
Yeah. Again, I felt slightly more towards the record of, if you like, as an image. We've obviously got rid of the aerials on the top and that sort of thing, and concentrating on the, if you like, the Evita, which is quite strange, really, isn't it? In as much as she's still adored after all these years, and I'm not quite sure how kind she was to the people. But anyway, they still idolize her in many, many ways, and obviously you can see with this particular image. I felt that possibly on the travel side, as I say, it was a little bit weak, but more towards the record. Composition wise, I thought that was quite strong in that respect. You know, it was, she was the main point of the interest, and so we've got a point of interest. She's towards the right of the image, so she's not central as such. So I thought that was quite good. But if you see it of any size, you'll find that the quality just goes down a little bit. So my guess is we're possibly at the top end of what we can do with this, and so I felt that was really one of the weaknesses, was the quality of the image as well. You know, I'll be quite honest, I would have been tempted to have cloned out some of the wires, particularly the ones coming out, I'll call it the bum in a hairstyle. There's two wires that come down there, and on the left hand side there's a wire that goes from the scaffolding. I might have just tidied that up, you know, but other than that, yeah, quality wise it was a little bit lower than some.
Okay, scored 14, Dave Neal. Leisure on Horse Guards.
Yeah, I guess most people, I guess, if you provided mono from a color, that maybe the first thing that you saw when you took the image was the color, and then you decide at some point to change it to mono. In this particular case, it's nice that we've got the black bollards going across, you know, if you like, forming a base. That as far as people and interest is concerned, that's in the bottom left-hand corner. We've got this man and people walking towards us. But to be honest, I felt that really the interest in the image was in the middle. I know we've got the the London Eye in the background. I think that's what it is. And we've got the central bit with people. So to be honest, I felt that we could have actually just cropped it a little bit, probably left and right, almost on a vertical, because as I say, we would have had the foreground in the bollards, and then in the middle ground we would have had there's a person there, I think, with her arms back, or at least one arm back for whatever, and then there's a little group of people probably with a pushchair, which would have been sort of middle ground, and then we've got the Horse Guards Parade buildings in the background. And it's got reasonable sky, but that we don't have to go over the top with that. You know, we don't have to go to thunderstorm or anything like that. I thought it was, you know, it's a reasonable sky. But I thought our attraction was brought down to this left corner because of the people and the interest in them. So, you know, we might have had to think about whether or not they need to be there. Of course, you know, if you want to have a record of Horse Guards, then you might say, well, I've got to have all the building in. But if you want to take a stronger picture, I think in a travel sequence sort of thing, then maybe in the middle, the vertical. So, but yeah.
Scored 15. That was Ivan Sedgwick. Next one, Tied Up in Knots.
Yeah. Now we come back to travel. Yeah. So I was looking at the interpretation of travel. So I'm thinking, well, is she on a disc? Does she spin round? Is that what we're saying? She travels round. Is that the thing? Now, does anybody want to tell me what the point of interest is? I'm sorry for laughing, but don't forget, I've looked at these over and over again, you know, and I must be honest, I can't make out whether she's in pain. Trust me, if I had my legs at the back of my head, I would be in severe pain. I can, you know, and she got a thumbs up to say, I'm still alive. I'm still all right, you know. But to be honest, because her face is lighter than her bottom, so her face is the point of interest, which is grimacing. But yeah, and the cloning, whatever, is just a little bit weak on the success. Because if you look on the right-hand side, we've maybe added some bricks. And we've maybe done similar on the left-hand side, but not too successfully. So we might need to, I mean, it might be somebody that's like me. I'm not that clever at doing these sort of things, and somebody might need a little bit of help. If they're really competent, then drink less before you do it. But if you're like me, not that competent, then you can accept, well, fair enough. But if you look, it's just not quite joined up on the right-hand side, at least, and the left a little bit. But as for the travel, yeah, I must be honest, I've smiled to myself a number of times thinking, point of interest, what is the point of interest? And we're going to argue that it's her. So, but anyway, there we go. It did make me smile.
Okay. That was 14 points, George Fiddler.
Yeah, maybe next week when you're having your meeting, George will give some explanation.
Right, next one. Not traveling anywhere, Hong Kong.
Yes. Again, yeah, I love these sort of interesting shots when we, you know, I guess in a way everybody's trying to decide which bit do I include, which bit do I not include, and that sort of thing. So on this one, I thought that as regarding travel, yeah, it fits the criteria very, very well. We're in a foreign climate, in a foreign place. We've got vehicles that are supposedly traveling when they get moving, that's fine, and people and such like. So yeah, and so it meets the criteria very, very well. Composition, I thought was, yeah, quite good. I'm not sure about the first row. You know, I don't know whether they're motorcycles, the van, and then the van that's just disappearing. I did think that maybe we could have just moved it up a little bit. We could have got rid of the sign and that sort of thing, and probably gone as far as the top of the windscreens, just to just tidy that up a little bit. But the rest of it was again was I thought was competent, black and white, good. interest, yeah. I'm sure if we looked at it, we could find different things. We could look through it and say, oh yeah, I've just noticed that. And, oh, I've just noticed that. All the people down there. So yeah, interest-wise, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, that's a holdback. Castle if Marseille.
Now, yeah, travel. Well, it's in a foreign place, so I guess that's what we're counting now. But I felt it was probably not as strong as some on the subject of travel. As a landscape photograph, it's very strong. Having said that, the foreground with the castle and thing is sharp. The background is slightly out of focus. The castle itself is in a strong position. So there's plenty going on. And, you know, the letterbox, I think, suits the subject. So, yeah, that's fine. I think ancient and modern, yeah, it's what it says. It says it's the castle. Then I don't know. I'm not going to try and do that. It's French or whatever it is. But anyway, there we go. It's a castle.
Okay, that scored 17. That was Steve Parrish. Taxi.
Yes, street photography is what I'm interested. I'm interested in street photography. Don't mean that I'm good at it or I do a lot of it, but I do recognise that for people to walk around with a camera to spot things that momentarily catch their interest. And in this particular thing, I thought that, yeah, it's there, isn't it? Travel. Well, we're not going to travel because the bike is actually tied to the post. Travel with taxis, yeah, that's the sign there. It's associated with travel, and there's enough in this, if you like, within the photograph to raise questions as a viewer. Because bearing in mind that's exactly what I am. I'm a viewer, and I'm just looking at it, and you know, there's sufficient there to just make you stop and have a look, and if you like, look at the bike. We know it ain't got flat tires, so it's probably somebody's going to come back and get it. The chain's still on, and it looks like everything else is still there. Nobody's nicked the seat. So yeah, I thought it was, yeah, interesting image.
Okay, that scored 17, and that was George Fiddler. Parting with friends is a sadness.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess it's on a bus. So you could say, well, that's travel. But I felt that there was some stronger in the subject of travel than this one. Composition-wise, a face is in a strong place, you know, within the picture. I wasn't quite sure whether she was waving goodbye. You know, the one finger up the pole was interesting. And the other thing, of course, is the retreatment that the author's given. And bearing in mind, I've no idea who the author is. But if you enlarge it somewhat, her skin is very plasticky. You know, there are times when maybe I would like some of that when I get too close and I see the number of lines that I'm getting. But she has not got any flaws on her face at all. And I think it's probably skin smoothing that's been done, but it has wiped away any sort of features in her face. So for me, that was the sadness bit, was that she's gone from being a human being into sort of like a mannequin. Yeah, I'm sure the vegans will not worry too much about the fox fur around her neck. But it's all gone in the past. But yeah, there we go. Held it back though.
Okay, ready for the off.
Yes. An interesting contraption. I've seen a number of these. I was on holiday in the Gran Canarias, and they were going to have a bit of time trials or something with these. You know, people come in wheelchairs and then get into this, and they have them shipped out there because of the pleasant weather, I guess, in the winter for them to have a go. Not the most comfortable of positions, but then again, maybe a lot of them haven't got a lot of feeling in their legs and such like, regrettably. But yeah, I think we lost a little bit of contact with him because he's not looking at us and he's not looking forward. So we got more of a detail of the back of his helmet and his ear. And I think, and the pedals, if I remember right, aren't like the old disabled ones that I remember as a child. You know, the disabled people had sort of a blue one, and then they used to, you know, they were used to do it like that. I think these are more together, hence we can only see one hand. That's because of the design of the bike. But interesting, and it's a good record of such a contraption. But it just would have been nice if I could see a little bit more of his face. But yeah, and again, you could argue about the bit in the top. You could clone it out, but I think it just reminds us that it's on a road. Without that, we might be lost where the thing was. And the ones that I've seen had flags at the back so that cars didn't run over them, you know, because they are pretty low down.
That's a hold back.
Yeah.
The Chapel of the Holy Spirit, Port Santo.
Yeah. Again, a nice record shot of the building itself. A couple of people in there had a human interest to it, and I guess you've used the lines on the floor to create for us to view. You know, the ones on the right take us to the seat or the chairs on the right hand side, and the one straight ahead to the lamp, and then the church or the chapel, whatever you want to call it, behind. Yeah, there isn't a lot of deep shadow, but then again, you see everything's white, it bounces light, doesn't it? So you're not going to get too much of that, although on the left hand side there is a bit from the tree. But it's a competent black and white image. It is travel, it's in a foreign place, and as I say, there's bits of interest there we could have a look at. I'm not sure, I can't remember what was on the badge, but the people working there and that sort of thing. Yeah, competent image.
That scored 17, Ken Sykes. Ready to go, but when and where?
Yeah. Well, you know, to be fair to the author of this, they haven't gone searching through their back catalogue of images and said, oh, let me see if I can find something. They've gone to quite a bit of trouble to meet the criteria of travel. And to be honest, that's what it does. Passports, towels, suitcases. Obviously, they've got a bobber too because it's Titan and Kuoni, and I think they're pretty expensive. So I mean, yeah, of course, I've looked around this, but one or two of the things they're taking with them, obviously, they're expecting to go somewhere where there might be some insects and such like. But you know, to be honest, yeah, if you want to call it a still life, you can say that. It's been put together very, very well. People have gone to a lot of trouble for this, and I thought that, yeah, if you want to say, does it meet the criteria? Yes. Quality-wise, is it any good? Yes. Composition-wise, yeah. We'll come back to the globe again. Yes. You know, we might say, you know, pushing 3 brochures was a bit much, but then again, you might want to cover the handle of the suitcase. So fair enough. But yeah, I know it's been put together, but I felt that it was still a quality image.
So hold back. Start of the journey.
Yeah, I'm sorry for smiling, but you know, I do know these images. I've looked at them and I thought, who is she waving to? Is it a friend over the road? Is she saying, boy, you, whatever? Anyway, so start of the journey. She's obviously a rich lady. She doesn't want to travel by bus because that's on to her, if you like, her right and our left. And the thing is the gap between her and the bus is quite large. So trying to get them together, it means we've got the bus on one side, which means almost we could crop it with her not in it, and we would still have a certain amount of travel in it with the bus and the light. But if we sort of crop out the bus, then the travel aspect's gone altogether, really. So I wasn't quite sure what she was waving. I think she's only got one finger in the air to sort of signal somebody. Maybe she's waving to a friend, bye, or whatever. I wasn't quite sure, but I felt that the gap between her and the bus was a little bit on the wide side. If the bus had come a little bit closer to her, I would have felt more inclusive. But you know, she's on the outside really, so I guess you're burnt or scalded. You can't chop any more of the bus off to bring her more into the image, you know, sort of, I guess more on a third if you want to call it that. And you can't chop any of the bottom off because that makes a low down. And if you chop the top off, well, I guess that's a possibility maybe. But yeah, I thought it was just a little bit stretched between the bus and her, and I wasn't quite sure how she was going to travel.
That's scored 15, Joyce Wenyon. Our driver.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't know whether it's moving or whether it's coming to a stop. I guess that's, but subject-wise, travel meets the criteria handsomely. So that was good. Composition-wise, that I thought you made life a little bit difficult for yourself because the driver, which is on the left-hand side, is the human interest, is right on the left-hand side. And so to a certain extent, we end up looking through the right windscreen and ignoring him almost because it's straight in front of us. And the gate's closed. And so you're thinking, well, I hope he's going to stop, you know, because nobody's opening the gate. Is this the end of the line? And so to that extent, there is some questions there. So quite, if you like, for the viewer. So point of interest, yeah, that's good. Composition, not so bad. Subject matter, that's good. But I felt possibly the quality was not quite there as strong as some of the others. So it lost a few points just to do with the quality aspect. But I thought it was still a good image.
Okay, that's a hold back. Heading for the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, a little bit, are we on a travel program or are we on Sky Sport? Again, it depends on the criteria. And as I wasn't given any guidance as to what travel meant, so I guess likewise the members decided that they could push the word travel as far as they could. And of course, because this guy is on his bike and he's bright and white, he is fairly strong, if you like, within the composition. I must be honest, when I looked at it, I did get rid of the man who's clapping, and I wasn't sure that we needed that writing there and that sort of thing. So maybe we could crop it or consider cropping it. Your image, you have to decide what you want to do with it. As far as the railing starts, then the cycle becomes much stronger because it's moved into the picture that little bit more. You know, I mean, nobody's looking at him, is it? You know, I hope he's not offended by it, but everybody else is looking across the other side. So I don't know whether he's not in the lead and they're not bothered or what. Again, it's all about whether you like cloning or whether you don't. I mean, I don't know. Do you like the word sunlight in the middle of his shoulder blades? Does it matter? We've got, was it Mappe or Mappy or whatever behind the cyclist? So sometimes you know, whether we could, I don't know, deal with some of those issues, but a little bit of cropping here and there. But as I say, I'm not so sure that it was strong on the travel, but as a sporting event, I thought it was quite strong for that.
Scored 16, Keith Cawthorne. Bordeaux Cafe.
Yeah, I must be honest. For this one, I thought was interesting. Travel, yeah, we're in foreign parts where people like to eat, so that's again. Of course, we've got the guy on the left. I don't know whether he's a waiter or whatever coming into the picture. So he's quite strong within the picture. The people and the tables on the left-hand side, yeah, they're a control point. On the right hand side, I guess you need it because of the tree, but I wasn't quite sure how strong we want the waiter to be, because obviously if we take a little bit off on the right, then we do create it stronger for him. But overall, I thought that it was a fairly reasonable picture and met the criteria quite well, actually. Bit busy, lots of things going on, so maybe not being able to concentrate on the strength of one item, you know. But I guess the point of, if you want, what is the point of interest? You can either say, well, it's everybody eating, or it's the waiter, or it's the man that's behind there standing near the pushchair. But there's plenty to look at in the picture. So interest-wise, it does carry on quite a while.
Okay, that's a whole back. La Boca, Buenos Aires.
Yes. This was, as I say, to view, a bit complicated, to be honest. People look as though they were static all over the place, and as if, you know, we've got one of these magic things where everybody stands still. Because the guy with the hat right in the middle is very strong. And then there's the lady to his right, if you like, to the right, again with a hat that's very strong. And then we've got people on the edge looking out. And then on the other end, there's people walking out. And then behind them, of course, there's lots of people. So I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I must be honest, I haven't researched what La Boca or whatever means. I'm sure somebody will maybe tell me, or maybe say, I'll leave him in his ignorance. But yeah, I thought it was just a little bit complicated and a little bit busy. I wasn't quite sure, and maybe the man and the woman is what the title's about, but I'm afraid it was lost on me, but that's probably down to my ignorance. But people on the peripheral aspects of it, look, there's a guy with sunglasses underneath the right on the very left. As I say, the two ladies are walking out, they're fed up, they're going home. The man on the right, he's looking at the frame because he's seen something more interesting, you know. And so I just felt that that's what weakened it, really. If I'd been on holiday there, I'd have probably think, oh yeah, I know exactly what that means. But just a viewer, I wasn't so sure.
So that scored 15, Dave Neal. Ready for the M25?
Yeah. Travel, I wasn't quite sure. Yeah, we could have said just manufactured, you know, whatever. I felt that obviously it's a pattern picture, and I felt that it was weak on the travel side, and on the pattern side it wasn't too strong. Had I been able, I might have turned one of the cars a different color, you know what I mean, just to make a point. Say, yeah, look, there's somebody's put a black one in the middle of the white ones, or, you know, there's something like that, just to create a bit of conflict within the image, you know, a bit of stress. We're thinking, what's that one like? Why is that like that? Because I just felt that there wasn't a break in the sequence. You know, this is a piano with all white keys, no black keys, you know what I mean? It's a pattern shot, really. I wasn't able to connect with it as I had with some of the others. And to be quite honest, I have to reflect that in the score.
So that's 14. That's Steve Dillon. And then this is the last one of the first section, Behind the Scene.
Yeah. Again, with this, I guess the author was trying to record the factors that A were up high. And the man in the, believe it or not, I guess the man in the kiosk is the focal point. A is human interest, and there he is. But of course, it's always going to be difficult with skies and that sort of thing. And where do you start? Where do you finish? You know, with the cable car, presumably this is like a cable car. And because he's looking to my right of the image, I guess he's waiting for the next one to come before it starts to leave and go down. but I mean, I'm guessing there they could have come up and he's just watching it disappear. But there's some human element to it, and also we've got the houses, buildings, and whatever in the background, some distance down, so we get an elevated view. We get, if you like, some information with regard to that. But as I say, it depends where you put the screen as to how much contrast you get on it. So, yeah, on travel, it's there. You know, just looking at it, point of interest has to be the man, I think, in the window, but he doesn't stand out a lot.
So that's scores 15, and that was Steve Dillon. Okay, we've got 7 images that were held back, and we'll start with not traveling anywhere in Hong Kong.
Yeah, as I said, I've said quite a bit about this one. As I say, maybe a little bit off the bottom sort of thing you could consider. You don't have to, it's your image. You might love it exactly the way that it is, and fair enough. I like the fact is the cars are coming out of the lines. You know, there is a break in the sort of repetition, a little bit of conflict for the viewer to think, oh, look, there's one trying to get out there, hopefully, unless it's run into the back of one, you know, and so they do break up the lines, which is good. So there's quite a lot going on, but it is still quite interesting for that. So I thought it was a fairly good image.
That scored 18. That was Mary Fish. Parting with friends is a sadness.
Yeah, I've said quite a bit about this already. I'm not quite sure what she's doing with her right hand and the one on the left. I don't think it's a wave goodbye or whatever. I'm not quite sure what it is. But yeah, in a way, it's a portrait, isn't it? But as I said, I thought really the weakness, and I don't know whether as a club you're going to look at these, but it's just the skin was just, I think, a little bit over the top.
It's 18. That was mine. Ready for the off.
Yeah. To be quite honest, it's I'm pleased that somebody's taken an interest in the disabled cyclist, and it's a good, competent image. You know, it's sharp, it's got good contrast. As I say, the only weakness really is in it, the driver looking away from us rather than either looking straight ahead where he's going, excuse me, or going to go, or towards the photographer. So I think in the 3 positions, straight ahead would have been the strongest. Towards you would have been a little bit weaker, and looking away from you weaker still. But anyway, 18. So now you know where you lost the marks. Not that you could help it.
That's Keith Cawthorne. Next one, our driver.
Yes. Again, as I said, this is still done quite well, and I felt met the criteria. You've seen this, and you know, we've got everything there that we need. But it was just the little bit lost in the quality. That was really the thing. And he is a bit on the left-hand side, to be honest, composition-wise. He's a bit squeezed in, but, you know, you wanted to get all the window in on the right, and he paid the consequences of having a little bit chopped off.
Scored 18. And that was Anthony Rhodes. Bordeaux Cafe.
Yeah, I've said quite a bit about this. There's quite a bit going on, but for the viewer, you see the tree is just beginning to, on the bottom right-hand side, you can just see a little tiny bit of the tree. As I said, I might have been tempted just to crop the first 2 people off, the bit of tree gone, and just leave the man and woman in. But other than that, yeah, it's a competent image.
That scored 18. And that's Steve Parish. Mum takes a break.
Yeah, as I've said, meets the criteria well. Plenty of interest for the viewer. luckily, Mum, the strength is Mum looking at the camera and, if you like, the photographer. Without that, we wouldn't have had the same connection with it. So whether by design or good luck or good fortune or whatever, she might think, what are you taking a picture of us for? But there you go. Just to say, for me, on my computer, it looked as though it needed a little bit more contrast.
And that scored 19. Mary Fish. Ready to go, but when and where?
Yeah, good black and white, good quality, meets the criteria very, very well. You know, I guess in the club you can all argue whether you had every bit in there or you'd take some bits out. It's all subjective stuff, isn't it? But it's a quality image and it meets the criteria of what the competition's about.
Okay, so that scored 20, and that was Dave Livesey. That was the only 20, so he's won that competition, that part of the competition. So we had 120, 119, and 5 18s in that section. So we now come to the 2 20s that were awarded tonight. Chinese Day out by Steve Dillon, and Ready to Go, When and Where. You want to say anything about that, or shall I just announce the winner, John?
Well, I guess, I mean, your rules said that I needed to pick one, to be quite honest. And for me, it really wasn't that difficult. As a monochrome worker, I felt the colour one was better.
Okay, so correct. Congratulations to Steve Dillon. I think, is that the first time we got a photo of the month? I think that's probably about 8 different people photograph of the month, which is quite a good variation. So congratulations, Steve. So after 8 rounds, this is the leaderboard. The best 8 images so far of all the competitions. It's pretty close at the top. There's only 1 round left to go, but all could still change. I'm in front with 157. Mary and Keith are second, equal with 156. In the black and white section, I'm in the lead. Mary is 2 points behind, and Dave Livesey 3 points behind in that. And in the colour section, Mary is leading with 153. Keith has got 150, and I'm third with 149. And that's a quick breakdown of where we are with all the scores. So there are 5 people that have entered 4 images for all 8 competition. Oh, sorry, 7 people entered all, and they're the scores ranging. 569 is the top score at the moment. Okay, so if I stop sharing, then we should be able to be back to everybody there.